we talked about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski receiving extensions by the Cleveland Browns. This is a little clip that was earlier from Sports for CLE. Shout out to them over there. A fan reached out and said, listen, not only are the Haslams disrespected about what they've been able to do the last couple of years, but he believes that the Haslams are the best ownership group that the Browns have had. What do you say? Make sure you hit us up in the comment section below. But let's take a look at this clip, courtesy of Sports for CLE.
Davis, Mike, West Virginia. I'm seeing some negative stuff about people's feelings on Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy Haslam is by far and away the best owner we have ever had. This man wants to win. You can tell it in his temperament. You can tell it when he talks. And, he's jumped the gun and not gave coaches in the past very much time, but it seems like he's turning into a pretty stable owner, and he's having patience with people. And my gosh, man, he just wants to win. He's proud to be the owner of the Cleveland Browns. We're lucky we got somebody that ain't from Cleveland that wants to keep the team there. So, Dave, you take care. God bless. Quincy and all you guys, wonderful show. I enjoy watching.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Tim, he's not only does he want to win, he's putting his dollars where that desire is, because all those signing things that you delay, it costs him money, and he is spending more average money per season than anybody else in the NFL by a lot, by like $70 to $80 million a year, more than the next closest. So all the Cleveland fans that wanted an owner that's spending like crazy, you got one.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about an owner that's not afraid to spend money to, give his team the best chance to win. And I think that's the number one thing you can say about the Haslams is they've spared no expense to try and bring in talent onto this football team. But I think the biggest thing he's done is that he's found a good, stable, front office. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, I think they've done a good job stabilizing the organization. I mean, these last 4 seasons are probably the best. This is probably the best 4-year stretch the Browns have had in the post-expansion era since '99.
I would rather have an owner who is passionate, that is going to be hands-on with my organization, than a standoff owner or owner that don't want to spend no money. See, we can't have it both ways here, people. One comes with the other. When if I'm an owner, right? And I'm shelling out money, and I'm paying these bills, right? And I'm paying these ducats and paying these ducats and paying these ducats and paying early and above and beyond, paying more than everybody else to keep our window open to win championships. Do you think any businessman is not going to ask when they look at that ledger, when they look at that sheet of integrity and say, what is our assets and liabilities? What are our expenses? What are our assets? What are we doing? What's our revenue? What's our cash flow? These people is going to be asking these questions. So I don't know where in the world people believe that somebody in somewhere, you're going to be an owner that's just going to throw money to people in your organization and put your head in the sand and say, well, I'm not going to ask what's going on. That ain't how life works. And that is definitely not how business works. I'm old enough to remember when people were mad that our ownership group with the learners were more interested in soccer teams in Europe and not showing them. There was actually a clause that the networks could not show them in the press box. What kind of the king don't have clothes stuff is that? You're more worried about your soccer team than you are about the dumpster stuff that we had going on here. And so when you got Jimmy Haslam, it was a change of pace. It was a change of what everything was going. And my thing is, the rationale behind it is, I just want my owners to stay out the way. Well, listen, that ain't how. Do you want that, or do you want the Dolans? Listen, the Guardians, people ask all the time, why do the Browns get a pass? Why do the Browns get a pass? Why do the Browns listen? As long as I've been here watching under Jimmy Haslam, the Browns have always spared no expense in getting ball players. That's the bare minimum I could ask of any owner. It could be the opposite. I can watch you develop pitchers and develop teams and be able to do certain things, but not look like you're trying to win nothing. You don't want to get no free agents at the deadline. As a matter of fact, you trade people at trade deadline. You know you need 2 or 3 bats in a pitcher, and it's the same thing every year. Are the Dolans going to spend? Why are we having the same conversation everywhere when you know they ain't going to spend? Did they spend on CC Sabathia? Did they spend on Cliff Lee? Did they spend? They haven't spent on nobody. So the thought, Jose Ramirez, the person they did sign, he was, what are you talking about? Like, he signed for pennies on the dollar because he liked being here. So, no, give me the Haslams. I like Dan Gilbert. Dan Gilbert did the same thing. Dan Gilbert, when LeBron was here, every luxury tax he was going, every apron on the luxury tax he was going over. He was spending draft picks. So you can't say that about Dan Gilbert. He is what he is, right? So my thing is, like if you're going to say that the Browns have stability, and you're going to say everything is cool, and you're going to praise Andrew Berry, and you're going to praise Stefanski. Heck, you might even magically know what D. Podesta does behind closed doors. I don't know what he does. Who knows? Maybe you just like what he did, and you like the Moneyball angle. But my thing is, if the guy who's cutting the checks, and the guy who hired those guys, and the guy who extended those guys, and the guy who went out and got Deshaun Watson and stuck his neck out for that, the guy who went out and stuck his neck out for a guy like Kareem Hunt, who had a checker pass, who was a guy who gave multiple opportunities too with your boy Josh Gordon. If you're going to give everybody else credit, you got to give a guy at the top credit as well. I don't know what this talking point is about how bad of ownership is. And you see, this is what happens when you have a bad team. You start to lean on the certain talking points where you just now say that. I mean, you could have told me that when they was 1-31. I was just as salty as you was. Why you picking Hugh Jackson? Why would you extend Hugh Jackson? Hugh Jackson talked about he going to jump in the river if he didn't get no wins, and he had to jump in the river. That was miserable for me tearing it down. But here's my thing. They tore it down, and now they got a coach that's 2-time coach of the year. They got a GM that people respect and like around the league. They got a Super Bowl contending roster, and the way they've done all those things is by Jimmy Haslam writing, signing, and putting that money where his mouth is. And that's all you could ask for as an owner and as a fan or a media member that you want your team to win. That's all you can ask for. Maybe I'm crazy. Can you tell me specifically why don't you? If you don't like Jimmy Haslam, put it in the comment section. Why is it that you feel like Jimmy Haslam doesn't deserve some of the credit that Stefanski and Andrew Berry are getting, even though Jimmy Haslam is a guy who's paying those guys and making those moves?